Boss humiliates and drives out a black waitress after feeding a homeless man. 6 months later, all. Maya, a black woman in her 30s, is a waitress at the upscale restaurant Le Palais du Gout, a place renowned not only for its refined dishes but also for the aura of luxury that surrounds it. This restaurant, frequented by a prestigious clientele, is a haven of sophistication and elegance. The walls, decorated with gilding and mirrors, reflect a soft light on the immaculate tables where silver cutlery is placed, while the waiters, dressed in black, move with an almost mechanical grace, ready to satisfy the slightest desires of the guests. Maya is part of this perfect setting, but she is just one shadow among others in this world of perfection. Although respected by her colleagues, Maya is invisible to customers. Her colleagues, mostly white and privileged, see her as just another waitress. They compliment her discretion and efficiency, but are never interested in the person she really is. She is, for them, an interchangeable figure, part of the decor, like the impeccable white tablecloths and sparkling candlesticks. Maya is the calm figure in the back of the stage, forgotten, but essential to the smooth running of the show. Every day, she arrives at the restaurant with a prepared smile, a facade of kindness and professionalism that she maintains throughout the day. But this smile, which never leaves her lips, hides an inner fatigue that she carries alone. Her days are a succession of precise gestures and measured words, a ballet perfectly choreographed to satisfy customers who only notice her for the necessary moment. Behind her impeccable appearance hides a woman who dreams of being seen, of being recognized, but who knows, deep down, that her role is to remain in the shadows, in an imposed silence. Maya doesn't complain. She learned to live with this invisibility. She works for others, but never asks for anything for herself. One afternoon, after lunch service, when the room was empty and quiet, a homeless man knocked on the restaurant door. He is frail, his face marked by years of suffering and solitude. His clothes are worn, torn by the wind and rain, and he has the haggard look of those who have been rejected by society for too long. Maya, as she crosses the room to put away some plates, sees him. Part of her wanted to look away, to follow the unspoken rule of not mingling with people like him. But another part of her, the one that remembers the misery she herself went through, her sensitive and generous heart, encourages her not to leave him outside. She approaches, smiles gently at him, and with a gesture, invites him in. "Come in, I'll give you something to eat," she said in a calm and warm voice, which had none of the usual indifference. She goes into the kitchen, prepares him a plate of fresh pasta and a glass of water, as she would have served any customer, except that this customer has no money. She does it because, in this moment, he is a human being, and that is enough to guide her. This gesture, although simple, is filled with deep humanity. Maya knows what it's like to have nothing, to find yourself in a situation where every meal is an opportunity, every meal a luxury. She remembers the days when she didn't have a job, when she didn't have enough money to buy a simple cup of coffee. She wants this man, even for a moment, to know the warmth and dignity of a free meal. She offers this moment of generosity without expecting return, without judgment, simply because it is the right thing to do. But as the silence of the afternoon is broken by the sound of cutlery and distant conversations, the restaurant door suddenly opens.
Marc Leclerc, the boss, enters the room with the air of a man in a hurry.
Seeing him, Maya stands up, her hands trembling, her smile disappearing slightly, but she didn't expect the storm that was going to be unleashed. Marc, a cold and authoritarian businessman, immediately goes towards her. His gaze falls on the man sitting at the table, on the dish that Maya served him, and a sneer of disgust forms on his face. He stands straight in front of Maya, his gaze hard, unforgiving. "What are you doing?" he asks in a cold, almost threatening voice. He crosses his arms and plants them against the backdrop, as if ready to judge Maya's every action with calculated slowness. Maya, her heart pounding, tries to keep calm. She knows that what she did is not in accordance with the restaurant's rules, but she hopes that he will understand the humanity behind her action. "He was hungry, Marc," she said in a trembling voice. "No one should have to go hungry like that." But Marc doesn't want to hear anything. His eyes, full of contempt, instantly devalue Maya. "This is no place to feed beggars," he said, his voice growing harsher, sharper. This is not a refuge, it's a luxury restaurant, and these kinds of people have no place here. His words are like whiplashes, and in the room, a heavy silence settles. The few customers who were present looked on without intervening, preferring to focus on their own comfort rather than the obvious injustice.
You think you're above the rules, don't you?
Mark continues, his voice full of condescension. You don't have the power to decide who deserves a meal here.
You reused a waitress, Maya.
You don't have that right. Maya, humiliated but dignified, lowers her head, tears threatening to come. She tries to remain calm, but her mind is invaded by shame, by the pain of seeing her act of kindness transformed into a crime. Mark, much more interested in his own authority than in the real situation, comes closer. I order you to leave immediately.
You will never come back here.
Ever.
The words hit Maya like fists.
She hears them, but she doesn't believe them. Not possible.
This is madness.
But Mark, without a look of compassion, pushes her to leave the restaurant. Maya takes her things, head bowed, her heart heavy with shame. Her colleagues, the very ones who had respected her in silence, said nothing. They just watch her walk away, with empty eyes, as if she had never existed in this perfect world they had created for themselves.
When leaving the restaurant, the pain is physical.
It's not just losing your job. It is the loss of one's dignity, the rejection of one's humanity. The looks of the customers, the indifference of her colleagues, all of this mixes into a torrent of sadness that overwhelms her. She wonders how an act of kindness, so simple and pure, could have turned against her in this way. The weeks pass, each marked by pain, but also by a glimmer of hope that grows stronger and stronger in Maya. After public humiliation, depression, and nights spent wondering what she had done wrong, she finally found a new job. This is not in a high-end restaurant, but in a much more modest establishment. The place doesn't have the luxury of the palace of taste, nor the wealthy clients who expect perfection, but it has something much more precious: humanity. There, she is not judged or underestimated. Her gestures of kindness and professionalism are appreciated at their true value. At first, Maya felt like an outsider in this new environment, but little by little, she learns to fit in. His colleagues are warm, the atmosphere is relaxed, and above all, everyone is respected for who they are. Maya realizes that luxury lies not just in decor or high prices, but in the way people treat each other. Here, she is no longer a simple, invisible waitress, but a person worthy of respect and recognition. She gains the trust of her bosses and becomes friends with her colleagues. Little by little, she finds joy in her work, because it is work that does not require her to sacrifice herself for the comfort of others, but allows her to flourish as an individual. His days become simpler, less stressful, but infinitely more satisfying. She serves with a sincere smile, she listens to customers, she is interested in them. Maya rediscovers the humility of the profession, that which is based on human exchange, on sincerity, and on respect. It is these little things that nourish her soul and give her the strength to continue, to move forward, without forgetting where she came from and what she has learned. She no longer needs the recognition of others to feel valuable. She found her place, far from the golden decor where she was invisible. On the other side, Marc Leclerc, the boss of the Palais du Gout, is sinking into a slow descent. The restaurant, which was once a temple of luxury and haute cuisine, is losing its luster. The exorbitant prices he imposes on his customers no longer correspond to the economic reality of the city. Those who formerly frequented his establishment are now looking for less ostentatious, more accessible places. The service, too elitist and disconnected from the real needs of customers, becomes a burden for employees, who complain more and more. Many are leaving, and the few who remain no longer hide their discontent. The restaurant becomes an empty shell, its former luxury no longer having any soul, like a building whose stones are slowly cracking. Customers are rare, and Mark, stubborn, refuses to face the truth. He clings to his image, to his ego, refusing to understand that the world has changed around him, that he is the only one to remain frozen in a bygone era. The criticism begins to pour in, the online opinions are more and more negative, but Mark continues to fight, convinced that he can still reverse the trend. He raises his voice, shows arrogance towards those who criticize him, but the damage is done. One day, when the definitive closure of the restaurant was about to be decided, Mark found himself in front of the door of the Palais du Gout, his hands in his pockets, his gaze lost into space. He looks at the building in despair, like a man watching the end of a dream. The place he had built with so much pride, which he had wanted to be a symbol of luxury and success, became the silent witness to his defeat. He feels like a living failure, a man who has lost everything, including his own sense of honor and dignity. The restaurant's windows, once bursting with light and life, are now tarnished, veiled in dust and regret. Mark wonders if he can still save what he built, or if everything is definitely lost. There are moments in life when we find ourselves alone in the face of our choices, and this is the moment he experiences. He is overwhelmed by shame and the feeling of not having known how to manage his own empire. It was then that one day, while he was standing there, leaning against the wall, alone, with his eyes lost, he saw Maya. She enters the building, her uniform impeccable, looking serene, as if life had taken her far from this place. She stops for a moment, observing the place that was once her workplace, before her eyes meet those of Mark. A heavy silence settles between them, almost palpable. Maya, stronger, more confident, is no longer the same woman he humiliated 6 months earlier. She looks at him calmly, but also with a form of new wisdom, a wisdom forged in pain and resilience. Mark, surprised to see her here, straightens up immediately. He seems aged, tired, the air of a man who has lost his battle against time and ego. He approaches her, hesitant. The words do not come easily to him. Finally, he breaks the silence, in a low, almost broken voice. I'm sorry for what happened, Maya. I should never have treated you like that. I didn't see beyond your role. I didn't see the human being that you are. Maya looks at him, and in her eyes shines something deep, almost indestructible. She scrutinizes him, her gaze filled with a patience that echoes everything she has been through. She learned to accept the mistakes of others, but also to recognize moments of redemption. You thought I was just a waitress, Mark. But that day you saw my dignity. You saw that humanity does not depend on social status. It's never too late to change, Mark.
Maya's words ring out like a rude awakening for Mark, like a bell tolling de no fanera.
He lowers his head, a deep feeling of shame overwhelming him. He lost the battle, but in this moment of humility, he begins to understand the magnitude of his mistake. He slowly reaches out to Maya, a fragile attempt at reconciliation, a gesture of vulnerability he never thought he could make. After losing his restaurant and the pride that accompanied it, Mark finds himself facing a reality that he had never really envisaged, a life devoid of luxury and prestige. He had always believed that money, success, and public image were the foundations of everything, but he realized that these things did not define him. Through the pain of failure and the fall of his empire, Mark finds himself in a space of vulnerability, a place he had long avoided. Instead of sinking into bitterness or withdrawing into himself, Mark chooses to react differently. Far from the solitude of his abandoned restaurant, he begins to frequent places where humility and compassion are at the heart of exchanges. He finds refuge in charitable organizations which fight every day to alleviate the suffering of the most deprived. He discovers the reality of the homeless, of people on the margins of society, and realizes that the real heroes are not those who are acclaimed in luxury salons, but those who offer their time and energy to improve the lives of others. Mark becomes a volunteer in a local association dedicated to helping the homeless. At first, he feels completely out of his element. Accustomed to hierarchy, recognition, and the brilliance of upscale places, he finds it difficult to adapt to the simplicity of these daily actions. However, little by little, he begins to understand that true wealth lies in gestures of solidarity and in the dignity granted to those who lack it. He begins to make regular visits to the people he helps, getting involved in meal distribution missions, but also in professional reintegration workshops. The months pass, and Mark transforms. He is no longer the man of ego that he was, but a man in search of meaning and redemption. Far from the glory and prestige that he believed to be essential, he finds a new balance in the simplicity of gestures, in the smiles of those he helps, and in the satisfaction of contributing to something greater than himself. He makes friends with other volunteers, people from varied backgrounds but driven by the same desire to bring about positive change. Mark, who had once looked down on the little people, becomes their ally, and in this transformation, he rediscovers his own humanity. For her part, Maya continues to grow in her new environment. His commitment, humility, and professionalism do not go unnoticed. She becomes a model of hard work and kindness, a pillar for her colleagues. Customers who come to the restaurant come not only for the food, but also for the warm welcome and respect offered to them. Maya embodies the idea that service is much more than a job, it is a vocation, a human exchange, a sharing of moments. Over the months, Maya's reputation grew, and her commitment to her colleagues and clients was recognized by management. It is not only for its effectiveness, but above all for its ability to inspire others to surpass themselves, to treat themselves with dignity, whatever their social position. One day, after several years of service, she was asked to become room manager. This is not just a professional promotion, but also a sign of the respect she has earned from those around her. Managing the restaurant becomes a challenge that she takes on brilliantly. She ensures that the work environment remains positive, encouraging, and human, and she strives to instill these values in her team. But more than anything, she becomes a role model for those who come to see her, whether colleagues or clients. She advocates a simple philosophy. It is not enough to serve meals, but to serve moments of happiness and respect. She teaches her colleagues that the quality of a service does not lie only in speed or perfection, but in the sincere attention paid to others. One day, while she is managing a particularly busy evening, an investor contacts her. He is interested in the idea of her opening her own establishment. This surprises her, because although she has always dreamed of having her own restaurant, she never imagined that this dream could come true so soon. The opportunity is great, and although it seems scary, Maya knows she has the skills and vision to succeed. She takes the time to think, but deep down, she feels that the moment has come. 6 months after the incident that turned her life upside down, Maya realizes that she has become stronger, more resilient. She went through the ordeals without letting herself be defeated. She learned to defend herself and make her voice heard. She transformed the humiliation she suffered into inner strength and wisdom. Today's Maya is a more serene, more confident woman, and more aware of her power. She knows that failure is not an end, but an opportunity to reinvent herself, and she embodies this philosophy every day, whether in her work or in her personal life. As for Mark, he found his own path to redemption. He fixed his mistakes, not with words, but with concrete actions. He chose to help others, to put himself at the service of those he had once ignored. But he knows he could never have made this change without the act of kindness Maya did that day, without the wisdom she shared with him. He will not seek to erase his past, but rather to live with it, to use it as a source of motivation for every action he takes from now on. Maya and Mark have each taken different paths, but their trajectories intersect in a moment of profound transformation. Maya learned to draw strength from pain, and Mark found redemption in serving others. Their lives will never be the same, but what they learned from each other, and what they did for each other, will forever remain a turning point in their respective lives.